Welcome to this School Mental Health Assist online tutorial series supporting educator mental health literacy. This series has been developed to complement the Ontario Ministry of Education document, Supporting Minds, an educator's guide to promoting students' mental health and well-being. This is the third tutorial in the series and focuses on recognizing and responding to mood problems in the classroom. The first tutorial focuses on creating and sustaining mentally healthy classrooms, which is reflected in Part 1 of Supporting Minds. The second tutorial focuses on recognizing and responding to anxiety in the classroom and is found in Part 2 of Supporting Minds. Over the past few years, mental health leaders in Ontario school boards have provided information about supporting minds to a range of education professionals to build knowledge and understanding about mental health at school. Systematic facilitated learning in this complex area of work will continue across Ontario schools in alignment with each board's mental health and addiction strategy. This online tutorial series is meant to complement and reinforce the messages and supports provided through the mental health leaders and other school mental health professionals.
This online tutorial series is offered free of charge through School Mental Health Assist, a provincial implementation support team working alongside the Ontario Ministry of Education to help Ontario's 72 school districts to effectively promote student mental health and well-being. Welcome to the Recognizing and Responding to Mood Problems in the Classroom tutorial. You may want to watch the tutorial all at once, or you may prefer to watch it section by section. The choice is yours. Each section will take about 10 minutes to complete. There are also some links, handouts, and videos that you may wish to access as part of your learning. Here is a clickable summary of the contents, which allows you the flexibility to navigate to a specific section. At any time during the tutorial, you can click the Home button at the top right of your screen. This will take you back to the summary page. You can also advance, pause, or go back and forth among slides with your mouse or cursor at your own pace. You may wish to pause, for example, to answer reflection questions that are posed. You'll notice in the bottom right corner of the screen there is a double arrow. You can click on these arrows to make your screen full size. It can be difficult to learn about and discuss mental health problems. Is today a good day for you to engage with this topic? Though the content we will cover is fairly high level and positively oriented, depending on your own life circumstances, the material may be somewhat challenging. You can find support and resources in Section 5 of the Summary of Contents. If you choose to proceed, pace yourself. You can always come back. As you learn about mental health problems that your students may face, you will likely recognize that none of us is immune from experiencing these difficulties. In fact, most of us will be touched by mental health problems in our family, friends, or selves at some point in our lives. Learning the signs of difficulty and how to intervene early to get appropriate help can be part of your own self-care practice. Personal resiliency is a very important skill to practice, to support in others, and to model for your students. Strategies for taking care of your emotional and physical health, like taking time for meals, exercise, sleep, and hobbies, help you to be more resilient in your daily work. And when you model your own self-care, you implicitly teach your students that it matters. You may wish to take a minute to read the handout and to think about the content and the connections to your practice in daily life and in the classroom before proceeding through the tutorial. The Ontario Ministry of Education developed Supporting Minds, a JK-12 resource document to help educators with their role in creating mentally healthy classrooms and in supporting students who may struggle with their emotions and behavior. You may find this to be a helpful resource day to day. Many educators have told us they refer to it often when trying to support students in their class who appear to be struggling with some sort of emotional problem. It is important to remember that mental health is a complex area, and only a registered health professional can diagnose and treat. As you'll learn in this tutorial, there is much an educator can do to promote and be supportive, however. If you are concerned about a student, seek the help of a mental health professional. After completing this tutorial, you may wish to review the chapter on mood problems from Supporting Minds for more information about recognizing and responding to mood problems in the classroom. As an Ontario educator, you probably already do much towards having a mentally healthy classroom. In this tutorial, there will be a focus on recognizing and responding to mood problems in the classroom, and it may provide some new ideas for you to try. This tutorial is designed to help educators to distinguish between healthy and unhealthy moods, to understand the prevalence and causes of mood problems, and to support students with mood problems in the classroom. In Section 1, the tutorial provides an overview of both depression and bipolar disorder. Depression is the more common type of mood disorder that educators will encounter. Being moody is a normal part of life, and everyone experiences ups and downs in emotions from time to time. However, there is a difference between variations in mood that can be described as healthy and those that can be viewed as unhealthy. Read through this slide, which introduces the idea of healthy and unhealthy moods. Healthy moods are associated with appropriate responses to life events and do not have a significant or prolonged negative effect on daily life. For example, a person may appear irritable following a long day of disappointments. However, when someone's mood is negatively affected without a precipitating event or circumstance and is expressed with disproportional intensity, we may consider this unhealthy. Persistent unhealthy moods usually have a significant negative impact on daily life. Mood can be defined as a state or quality of feeling at a particular time. Moods may change based on events and circumstances. For example, a student may feel happy and excited to make the basketball team or when having fun with friends. However, circumstances can change frequently, and a student can become sad or unsettled following a conflict with a friend or when they receive a poor grade on a test or assignment. These are normal reactions to real events and reflect healthy fluctuations in mood. Depression is the most common type of mood disorder. It can impact people of all ages and backgrounds. You likely know someone who has experienced depression, or you may have experienced depression yourself. Reflecting on your personal experience, was the depression easy to detect? What were the signs visible to others? What other less visible signs were present? Mental health disorders can only be diagnosed by a regulated health professional. This includes psychologists, psychological associates, physicians, or psychiatrists. Some features of common mood problems are shared in this chart to help distinguish between normal sadness and more concerning depression. Major depressive disorder is characterized by extreme sadness, irritable mood, and loss of interest and pleasure in daily activities for at least 2 weeks. Dysthymia, or persistent depressive disorder, on the other hand, is manifested by less severe symptoms than major depressive disorder, but it is persistent over time. The longer duration of the milder symptoms can impact daily activities and be just as harmful as a major depressive disorder. When these two forms of mood disorders are combined, it can be referred to as double depression.
So when we talk about depression, I think everybody has an idea of what it is. We can think of someone in our family or immediate or extended family that has been depressed. We often don't think, though, that children and adolescents can also suffer from depression. Basically, when we're talking about depression, we're talking about a significant change in mood. And when we talk about adolescence, we have to be careful because it's not just a sad mood. I mean, that's most commonly what we think of in depression. But in adolescence can also be an irritable mood. We're talking about a mood that's different from someone's baseline. So you have to really know someone to appreciate when you have a change. So if you have that mood, but then you have a combination of other symptoms as well. One of the pivotal symptoms is a lack of enjoyment in things you used to enjoy. And when you really just don't get the same kind of pleasure out of things that you had before. And when we talk about all these symptoms, this isn't just a bad day. Everybody has a bad day sometimes where they can feel sad or kind of upset at the world. These are bad days, one leading into the other, bad weeks compounding over time, where more and more it's making it difficult to do not just challenging things like schoolwork, but everyday things like getting up in the morning, brushing your teeth, brushing your hair. It can be quite debilitating after a while. And that's really the hallmark. You have the symptoms, and you have this real significant effect on your ability to function in one or more ways of aspects of your life, whether it's your home life, your school life, your social life, your work life. A lot of young people also have jobs, and it can wear a person down.
Look at the prevalence statistics on this slide. Next to anxiety disorders, Depressive disorders are the most common mental health problem amongst children and adolescents. In fact, about 2% of Canadian children and 8% of Canadian teens experience depression. While there are no significant gender differences prior to adolescence, teenage girls are reportedly twice as likely than boys to be diagnosed with a depressive disorder. Depression can occur at any stage in life, but most adults with depression today indicate that they experienced their first symptoms as children and teens. Most of these students will not tell others about their feelings and will not ask for help. Understanding more about depression and what it looks like will better equip you as an educator to recognize and address the needs of students who are feeling depressed. Bipolar disorder is characterized by periods of elevated mood, sometimes called mania or hypomania, and may be accompanied by grandiose or racing thoughts. Sometimes people with bipolar disorder also exhibit risky behavior without consideration of the associated consequences. These manic periods most often alternate with periods of depression. You may like to listen to Dr. Mannion explain bipolar disorder. If so, click on the following video link. Learning in this section reminded us of the importance of student mental health and well-being at school, and introduced the concept of mood disorder, helped to distinguish between healthy mood and unhealthy moods, provided information about the prevalence and causes of mood problems, and assisted in identifying related issues to mood problems. Take a minute to think about any new learning that you've taken away from this section. Jot your ideas down and save them so that you can reflect on your thoughts at the end of this tutorial. In Section 2, we'll be learning about the physical, social, emotional, and cognitive signs of mood disorders, and we'll learn about the importance of recognizing these signs early to ensure responsive preventative support and intervention, and when to make a referral to a regulated health professional. We know that depression causes changes in the brain-body system and can interfere with learning. Take a minute before watching the video to think about what being depressed might feel like.
Students tell us that depression can feel like a physical weight bearing down. It's like a heaviness in your body, as if your limbs were made of lead. Depression is like carrying a brick on your head and you're being asked to high jump. With no energy or motivation, you can't even lift your feet off the ground. Yet everyone around you is high jumping. You see them and it makes the weight even heavier. You just want someone to help hold the brick. They don't need to make it go away completely or forever, just help you hold it for a while. Can you imagine feeling like this most of the time?
The impact of mood problems on a student's ability to learn and to succeed can be severe. These students are less likely to meet their academic potential and to graduate from high school. Educators are ideally positioned to recognize early signs and symptoms of depression in children and youth. Early identification and intervention can improve mood and overall functioning at school. Observing the signs and symptoms of mood problems can be like thinking about an iceberg. Only a small fraction of the iceberg is visible above the waterline. Like an iceberg, some signs of mood problems are obvious. They're what you see in your classroom. You may also need to know what is below the surface to understand and support the student. Many of the indicators of mood problems are less apparent, appearing below the surface. Think about the students in your classroom. Can you envision a student with any signs of depression? What appears above the iceberg? What do you think might be going on below the waterline for that student? You may wish to hear more about signs and symptoms in relation to the iceberg analogy. If you do, click your mouse or cursor on the link. It is common for people with a mood problem to have comorbid difficulties. The term comorbid is often used in medicine to describe the presence of one or more additional disorders co-occurring with a primary disorder or disease. For example, there is a significant link between depression and anxiety. Similarly, students who have experienced extreme stress or loss, or who struggle with attention and learning problems, are at a higher risk for depression. Substance use often coexists with mood problems in adolescence, as youth attempt to cope with their emotions by self-medicating. When problems with mood and emotions do not subside over a time and begin to interfere with the student's ability to function or enjoy activities, this may be a sign of depression or bipolar disorder, and further investigation is necessary. It is helpful to know when to be concerned about what you may be seeing. When depression causes problems with functioning at home or school, there are 4 areas that need to be considered: disproportion, duration, distress, and disruption. If students are exhibiting signs that are out of proportion of the situation, long-lasting, causing distress, and interfering with functioning, then there is reason for concern. When this happens, it is important to consult with a physician or another regulated mental health professional. You may wish to hear more about when to be concerned. If you do, click your mouse or cursor on the link. It is important that educators, administrators, and other school staff are knowledgeable about some of the general signs related to mood problems, particularly given the impact that depression and other mood disorders can have on academic and interpersonal outcomes at school. As you read through the chart, which describes the characteristics of depression in elementary and secondary school-age children, ask yourself if a particular student comes to mind. There may be other signs that you are concerned about, which are not listed here and are related to a more specific mood disorder. In that case, speaking to a mental health professional about your observations could help better determine your next steps. Learning in this section clarified that mood problems can be difficult to recognize, that indicators can be both obvious and less apparent, and that by recognizing the symptoms of various mood problems, we can know when to provide support or when help is needed from a mental health professional. Take a minute to think about any new learning that you've taken away from this section. Jot your ideas down and save them so that you can reflect on your thoughts at the end of this tutorial. On the screen, you'll see the goals for Section 3. In the process of thinking about these goals and the content of this tutorial, you are encouraged to think about the conditions and strategies that may also increase your own ability to respond to students with mood problems. Evidence shows that when we model how we nurture and care for ourselves, we teach our students how to do the same. In other words, they learn from what they see us doing. Learning for All uses a triangle to show a multi-tiered system of support for learning in Ontario. As noted in the Mentally Healthy Classroom module, a similar triangle can be applied to mental health support. At Tier 1, universal supports that promote mental health involve all students and educators and have an impact on the whole school environment. These supports include strategies for creating a welcoming and inclusive setting for learning and fostering meaningful student and family connection to school. Educators are well positioned to provide these as part of the everyday classroom and school experience, and as a province, Ontario has been working for many years to create accepting, inclusive, and safe school climates. Tier 2 strategies can be used in the classroom to support students who may be more at risk for mental health problems. Sometimes it is helpful to engage the help of other professionals with more specialized experience to provide consultation and support with these students. Tier 3 supports are for students who are experiencing significant distress and require the involvement of mental health professionals in the school board and/or community. Quite often, students with this level of need can be successful in the regular classroom setting with appropriate and consistent support. Specifically, in relation to student depression, universal strategies help to normalize feelings about depression, reduce potential sources of stress at school, promote positive mental health, and destigmatize mental illness. Drawing on the AIM model introduced in the Mentally Healthy Classroom module, there are strategies that can be used at Tier 1 in the regular classroom to create calm and welcoming classroom environments that help all students to manage their feelings. At Tier 2, educators can use techniques that can help students who are prone to depression to feel safe and to take needed risks in the classroom setting. Being able to support students who need or are receiving Tier 3 support from mental health professionals is also important so that school can be a safe place for these students when they are feeling vulnerable. More specifically, at Tier 1, when educators greet students by name each day, provide a safe, welcoming environment with predictable routines and structures, help students to manage time and chunk assignments, and create a learning space that facilitates risk-taking and participation, they are helping all students to manage. In addition, and because sometimes learning is difficult in busy classroom life, it can be helpful for all students to explicitly learn how to stop and take a breath to improve their focus and energy level. The Mood Problems info sheet from SMH Assist contains a number of strategies to consider to help educators to welcome, include, promote, understand, and partner in the interest of helping all students. You may want to print a copy for later reference. All students benefit from a calm, welcoming, and predictable classroom environment, and the strategies that we have presented for the whole class are certainly helpful for students who are prone to mood problems. But these students sometimes require a higher dose of these strategies to be successful at school. For example, by creating a learning environment in which students feel welcome to speak up about how they are feeling, it helps the student develop and use help-seeking skills. Allowing frequent breaks to help the student with concentration problems. Explicitly teaching problem-solving skills as part of what happens regularly in the classroom will help to normalize this instruction for all students, but particularly for those students who need it. In addition, when educators build relationships and take the time to develop rapport and trust with students, all students benefit from this connection, and those who are prone to mood problems do much better. Further, students with mood problems feel safer and more supported to take healthy risks at school when educators maintain a calm, patient tone of voice in interactions, help the student to have a clear plan for the day, and break difficult tasks into smaller, manageable steps. You may wish to refer to the Mood Problems info sheet or Supporting Minds for more ideas. When depression is recognized early and when professionals provide treatment, young people can experience improved mood and function better in school and life. School personnel play a pivotal role in identifying depression and intervening. It is important to remember that educators are not alone in supporting students with depression. Guidance counselors, administrators, school social workers, school psychologists, and others are available to listen to and support students with the development of a support plan. You may like further information on what educators can do to support students with depression. If so, click on the following video link. You've just had an opportunity to review the Mood Problems information sheet, Supporting Minds, and a video clip about classroom strategies that can be supportive of all students but are particularly necessary for students with depression. Take a few moments to review the chart. You may wish to print this puzzle chart and add additional strategies in the blank spots. Learning in this section covered the concepts that you see on the screen. There are many universal classroom strategies which will help support students who may be struggling with their emotions and moods. Which ones might you consider using to support all students in developing healthy coping strategies? Which ones might you apply when students are at risk for mood problems? Now that you have worked through this section of the tutorial, you may want to pause the tutorial and record your thoughts about new learning. The learning goals for Section 4 focus on developing a repertoire of strategies to support students with more significant mood problems and to become familiar with your board's referral process. In this section, we talk about Tier 2 and 3 support strategies that are appropriate for the classroom. If we think about learning for all, the universal strategies that we've looked at benefit all students. Although universal strategies are a good foundation, students with depression require targeted or specific strategies to help them cope. Specific strategies are intended to monitor and support students with mood disorders, and for those students, a referral to a mental health professional is typically required. You may have taught students who have been diagnosed with mood disorders. For these students, the expertise and support provided through school mental health professionals, such as school social work and psychology, as well as community mental health providers, is important. This support may include a medical or psychiatric assessment, medications, intensive therapeutic interventions, family education, etc. It is important for educators and mental health providers to work together with students and parents to determine which interventions should and should not be used. Meet Caleb. He is a grade 11 student diagnosed with depression. He has experienced symptoms of depression since grade 7. He found it easiest to be alone and to pretend that everything was fine rather than answer multiple questions about his moods. Although he wanted to tell his teacher, he never saw the opportunity for a confidential conversation. He felt as if he was in a dark tunnel, and when it seemed as bad as it could get, things got worse. Caleb describes his depression as carrying a backpack full of rocks, weighing him down and draining his energy. The relationship that you have with your students is one of the most potent enablers of student well-being. What might seem like small or even inconsequential things can actually be very important for a student struggling with depression. In this audio clip, Caleb tells us what educators did for him and what he found to be supportive. Before you listen to what he says, have a look at the strategy chart for supporting students with depression-related symptoms. Consider the types of strategies that might be appropriate for a student with symptoms like Caleb's. You might record some of your ideas.
Lots of people offered advice for me. People would say things like, try something new, or go do this, or go do that, or things that they liked. But it wasn't really anything that I liked. People always said smile, but I was already smiling to pretend, and that wasn't helpful. I was just too exhausted to do anything, listen to any of the suggestions, or even try any of them. And if people had great suggestions, I didn't even listen. I think it would be very helpful if my grade 7 teacher would have talked, like if I would have been given the opportunity to talk to my grade 7 teacher. I think that it would have helped me through it all quite a bit. I also think that it would help if teachers had almost an appointment time that I could book with them and then talk just one-on-one. Things started to change for me in grade 10. I met a grade 10 science teacher that I really liked. She kind of made science interesting. She did lots of experiments and made them lots of fun. I liked putting kind of two things together and getting a completely new thing, or all the different results and how it would bubble and just fun things like that. I was able to talk to her outside of class. The teacher, she pulled me out one day and told me she wanted to start a club for people who don't really like science but kind of want to try it out. When I look back on it, I really think that she just wanted to talk to me. At the time I thought, she wanted to talk about the science club, and I was really focused on that aspect of it, but I think she was starting to catch on. I think my teacher started to notice that I didn't really talk to anyone, or when we had lab groups, I didn't really make an effort to join someone's. I'd just wait until I was the last one and had to join someone's group. It wasn't really so much what my teacher said to me that helped. She just listened. She just sat there and heard what I had to say. She didn't try to offer any advice. She just listened and heard me out, and I was free to say whatever I wanted to. First, it was just between the two of us. I'd go after school and talk to her about the science and stuff like that and my life, and it kind of progressed to the point where she asked me to go with her to talk to a counselor. And at first, I really didn't want to, but she said she'd go with me, and then she said she'd do most of the talking, so I agreed. after a while, I went back and I started to talk a little bit more, and then the next time I started to do a little bit more of the talking and gradually more and more. I don't think there was any way that I would have went to the appointment without her. I think it really made the difference that she came with me. She was very caring. It felt like she really cared just about me. So after a few times of going to the counselor, he started to talk to me about depression and kind of the actual term of it, because we talked about me, but we never put the label on it. So eventually we agreed to bring my parents in, and we talked with my parents as well. And then after that, I talked to the family doctor. The family doctor was helpful. She prescribed medication for me, and the medication really helped me feel better. Even after I started to feel better, I kept up with the counseling. I kept going because I started to like it, and I started to like talking to someone about how I felt, and then I started to make friends, and now I'm looking forward to going to university after high school. I think people just need to know that the best way out of it is just to start making connections with people that really care.
Now that you have heard what was important to this student, reflect on the strategies you selected from the chart. Would you change anything? You may also be interested in seeing Caleb's self-advocacy card, which you can download by clicking the link. The most appropriate approach for students with mood disorders is often individualized. It cannot be emphasized enough that students with depression are best supported when they feel safe to speak to caring adults in the school and when they are engaged in the development of their plan of care. If the student has been diagnosed with a mood disorder, there will sometimes be assessments and care plans available in the OSR, which will provide important information for you. Developing modifications and accommodations to respond to the student's fluctuations in mood, ability to concentrate, or side effects of medication should be done in conjunction with parents, guardians, and mental health professionals whenever possible. Ongoing collaboration and communication with the student, home, school, and mental health professionals, if they are currently involved, ensures that priorities for intervention are identified and both short-term and long-term goals are identified. Parents and families are critical supports and know their child best. It is critical to invite them to share their ideas and experiences for how best to manage mood problems at school. You may wish to refer to the Mood Problems info sheet or Supporting Minds for more ideas. Listen to what a vice principal has to say about what educators can do at school.
As a system, as teachers, as a school, we see those children longer than their parents do for the most part, and that we need to be aware that our kids are going through these things on a daily basis, that the old adage of leave your baggage at the door doesn't resonate anymore, and we really need to be aware so that if something happens, we don't miss it and we don't say, it's just normal teenage stuff. And I think that for me, that's critical, and that finally, that's the piece that awareness builds, is the knowledge that we are the key players in a lot of students' lives.
Knowing how to access professional mental health supports is a crucial element in supporting students with mood problems. If you do not know how to access such supports, speak to your school administrator about the process in your school board. Remember, only a registered professional can diagnose and treat depression or other mood disorders. You may also wish to become familiar with your school board's mental health leader and mental health and well-being strategy. Take a minute and see if you can provide answers to these questions. Learning in this section was meant to cover the concepts that you see on the screen. Some students will require targeted approaches, and a repertoire of strategies may be required to support them with depression or bipolar disorder. It is important to collaborate with school-based mental health professionals, and sometimes children's mental health agencies, and to be familiar with your school board's referral process. We encourage you to review any notes you have taken about the 4 sections discussing mood problems. Thank you for taking the time to learn with us in this online tutorial series from School Mental Health Assist. Feel free to contact us for more information. Need help now? You can find support and resources at these websites on the screen.